What's going on, everybody? It's Hackstrong coming at you again. This will be my third video now, so thank you everybody who's following along. Today we're going to be talking about a little nutrition, a little bit of nutrition facts for those of you who, maybe you're just starting to go to the gym, or maybe you've been going to the gym for a while and you're just looking for a way to maybe boost your nutrition or your calories in, calories out, macro and micronutrients, and how to track all of that. Some equations, basal metabolic rate, we'll talk about that, so stay tuned. But yeah, thanks for tuning in today, and follow along. We'll get right into it with no further ado. Make sure you subscribe. Alright guys, so first off, weight loss is quite simple if you want to simplify it, but you can also kind of break it down and categorize it into plenty of different things. Now, number one, and one of the most important things that you're probably going to want to know, is that 1 pound of body fat is equal to 3,500 calories. That being said, if you are in a calorie deficit, meaning your total energy expenditure, or how many calories you're burning per day, is greater than your calorie intake, which is how much you're eating and or drinking in calories per day, let's say that per one day, you were to be at a 250 calorie deficit, meaning you are 250 calories, you're burning 250 more calories than you're taking in that day. You would lose in a week about a half a pound of body fat. If you were in a 500 calorie deficit, you would lose about a pound in a week. If you are in a 1,000 calorie deficit per day, which is a little bit extreme, I don't really recommend going that far, but if you're at a 1,000 calorie deficit per day, you will lose 2 pounds of straight body fat per week. Well, for some people, that's easier said than done. For other people, it's pretty simple. It just depends on your person. Now, there's a lot of different factors that play into somebody's diet. And the three main things we could talk about here are hunger, your satiety, and your appetite. Hunger, we could describe that as, your physiological drive to consume food based off of your body's needs. Your satiety level, well, that more relates to your response to having eaten enough. So when does your body tell you, okay, I've had enough, I've consumed enough food, I am satisfied? Satiety. The other part of it is your appetite. Now, this can be influenced by your environment. You might not be hungry necessarily because you haven't eaten in a while, but you get that smell of something that tastes like, for me, especially, like a lot of cheesy foods do it. I love this, I smell it, like mac and cheese, or just anything with cheese, honestly, is kind of like a soft spot for me. So you got those three things. Now, some people, they have a higher hunger, their bodies require more nutrients, so you're exercising more, you're gonna be hungry more, you're burning more calories. That's your physiological drive to consume food based off your body's needs. For some people, their satiety levels, they need to eat more in order to feel fully satiated. Other people, on the other hand, might not need to eat as much to get that bodily response of satiety to tell them, hey, I've had enough, I should stop eating. Some people have a higher influence on their diet through appetite. Some people, they give into their desires for certain foods, cravings for foods, a lot easier than others. And if you want to look more deep into exactly what causes this, there is a hormone that has a very big effect on food intake. And this hormone is known as ghrelin, G-H-R-E-L-I-N. I'm not great with pronunciations, but this is typically released due to an empty stomach. So when you haven't eaten in a while, your body is going to produce this hormone, and that is going to have a direct influence on your hunger levels. Now, this hormone will be released in your body. You will feel more hungry, and this is supposed to help your body regulate your need to intake food. Now, there's different ways that your body regulates your satiety level, your response to having eaten enough. And one of the main ways is through gastric stretching, or the stretching of the stomach. And once your stomach stretches to a certain point, it triggers the release of certain hormones that give you that feeling in your brain of satiety, telling you that you've had enough to eat. Now, some people, it takes a lot longer for them to get there, meaning, they need a lot more food in their stomach to stretch, have more gastric stretching in order to release those hormones. Certain people, it only takes a little bit, and then your body already releases those hormones. It just depends on where the trigger level's at. a way to kind of regulate your own satiety would be to eat high volume foods, foods that are high in water content, high in fiber, things like that. That's going to help you regulate, your own levels of satiety. These foods with higher fiber and higher water content are going to make you feel more satiated quicker, meaning you're not going to want to consume as much, meaning you're not going to be taking in as many calories, and it's going to be easier for you to put yourself in a calorie deficit. You're not going to, feel too hungry all the time. Because let's be honest, nobody likes feeling super hungry and drained while you're trying to lose weight. Your body has, your body is constantly burning energy. I have a cheat sheet up. Your body, it takes energy just to be alive. And there's, 3 components that you can really factor into your total energy expenditure, or how many calories you're really burning throughout the day. The 3 components consist of your basal metabolic rate, your total physical activity, and the thermic effect of food. So let's start with basal metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate, or BMR, is the amount of energy that you need to live. This is involuntary things such as a heartbeat, respiration, breathing is respiration, redundant, regulating body temperature. There's plenty of influential factors. And believe it or not, your basal metabolic rate, BMR, just staying alive throughout the day, bare minimum, no moving, nothing, you could lay dead still, this is how many calories you burn, will take up 2/3 of your total energy expenditure per day. 2/3 of it is taken up through that. And then on top of that, you have your physical activity, which can be calculated, based on how intense it is. So for me personally, wrestling, typically wrestling is considered high intensity sport, meaning I would burn more calories during wrestling. Or if you're doing long-term steady state cardio, or you're doing some kind of lifting, it just depends on what your exercise level is. That can factor into your total energy expenditure. And the other component is the thermal effect, or thermic effect of food. So, that is kind of just how many calories, when you eat food, it still takes calories. Your body uses calories in order to absorb the food you just ate or consumed. So, just the chemical reactions in your body that take place in order to break down these foods and, circulate the nutrients through your bloodstream and disperse to your body, that takes energy too. So you can factor that in. Your BMI is not always accurate, because your body mass index only takes into account your age, your height, and your weight. It doesn't take into account your body composition. But your BMI is a pretty good indicator of certain health risks like obesity, chronic illnesses, things of that nature. But if you want to look into body composition, you have things such as body fat distribution, which you have visceral adipose tissue, and you have, subcutaneous adipose tissue. Basically, all that means is those are different kinds of tissue in which, with visceral adipose tissue, you'll have greater risk for, weight-related health problems and metabolic syndromes, and, you'll have greater waist circumference with visceral adipose tissue, which is tissue built up through accumulating fat mass. Subcutaneous adipose tissue is subcutaneous is I believe, I'm not a doctor. Also, full disclaimer, not a doctor. This is, just what I have learned through health and nutrition class. Subcutaneous adipose tissue is going to vary depending on the person, but subcutaneous is going to be your skin layers, fatty layers of the skin, and this can be measured through the pinching of the skin, measuring the thickness. But typically, health problems will appear when your waist circumference, if you're a male, is greater than 40 inches. Or if you're a female, if your waist circumference surpasses 35 inches, this is where, that's kind of a indicator of, hey, you're probably gonna start to have some health problems. But on the other end of the spectrum, you can have too little body fat, and that can also cause health issues. And this would typically happen for females if you are under the 12% body fat range. So once you're under 12% body fat for females, you want to be careful, because you can have plenty of issues that can happen once you go below that point. And for males, it would be below 5% body fat. So males, you guys can go a little bit lower. Females, you have to have different body compositions because you guys have to support life at some point through pregnancy, and you are going to need that extra body fat for something like that. So our physiological structures vary depending on gender. There are, if you are obese and you want to talk about that, there's different causes of obesity. You have, your lifestyle, your environmental factors, and your genetics. So, obesity has been caused by eating habits, by an increase in energy intake, or, being in too much of a calorie surplus for too long. This typically, and especially in Western cultures, especially in where I'm at, America, it's a lot of the times it's societal influences, such as, the convenience of fast food, the serving sizes of fast food. I mean, they give you these big bags of food and it's like way more than you really need, and it's appalling at how big the serving sizes can get. There's also visual cues through advertisement to make you, in the back of your mind, you think driving you to go eat and consume foods that you really don't need. But the advertisement is going to kind of put that image in the back of your head, and kind of, they're trying to get your money, so they're trying to make you buy more of their product. Well, in turn, that damages your health, but they're trying to pull as much money as they can. So ways to measure this also would be, if you are low in physical activity, or, you don't get up and move a lot, you have a very laid back, hands-off job, things like that, you're not burning as many calories, so you don't have anything extra on top of your basal metabolic rate, like we talked about earlier. So it's a lot easier for you to be in a surplus because you're not burning, your energy expenditure, or what you're burning off, is not going to be greater than what you're taking in. Just because you're not burning anything extra, you're solely relying on basal metabolic rate. But on top of that, there's another side of obesity where 50% of your risk is determined by genetics and genetics alone. And, you can have this, there's this modern theory of, it's called the leptin theory. And what that means is that there is a hormone, it's a satiety hormone called leptin, produced by the adipose tissue. And what this is supposed to do is suppress your appetite and increase your metabolism. Now, if you have a defective leptin production, your body will not produce this hormone as frequently, meaning your levels of satiety, you're going to have to eat a lot more, and you're not going to ever really feel fully satiated. You're always going to be hungry. That's going to be, that's going to make it a lot harder on you to regulate your energy intake. But if on the other end of things, you could also have a defective leptin receptor. So your body could be producing the leptin hormone, which is regulating satiety, but it's like the receptors are not receiving the hormone, so they're producing and then not doing anything. They're just kind of sitting there. There are plenty of weight loss methods. The very simplicity of it, and this is going to sound crazy, but it's very simplistic, honestly, is you have to have your energy expenditure, or how many calories you're burning per day, per week, per month, however you choose to measure it, has to be greater than your energy intake or your caloric intake. You can measure this in calories. Calories is just a measure of energy. Most people are very successful in short-term weight loss because, like I said, it's very easy to just be in a calorie deficit and lose weight. But the problem is a lot of people do it too drastically, too quickly, and they can't sustain it, so they end up rebounding. Only 1 to 2% of people who lose weight keep it off for 10 years. Why? Well, most focus rather on strictly losing weight. I don't recommend strictly focusing on losing weight. It can't just be like, oh, I want to lose a certain amount of weight and then I'm just going to revert. You have to choose to change your... As I was saying before I was interrupted by my lack of storage, which I still have to figure out, a lot of people too, they like to do these hardcore diets of keto diets or these fad diets, and then it ends up turning into more weight cycling because you are going to lose a drastic amount of weight so fast, but your body's not going to be able to maintain that. So all you're going to do is basically rebound, or yo-yo dieting, where you kind of lose, gain, and you're always kind of in this cycle, which is very hard on your body, and I do not recommend doing that at all. So how I would recommend doing it is to set realistic goals, slowly and steadily lose weight between 1 to 2 pounds a week, and remember that obesity is a chronic condition that is developed over years. It's not going to change tomorrow. Choose more nutrient-dense foods. Your food choice is the main factor. I mean, you can exercise all you want, but if you're eating extremely calorie-dense foods multiple times throughout a day, you're going to have to work out for like 10 to 15 hours just to burn off what you're eating because you're eating so much. I would choose nutrient-dense foods. Moderation and wise choices in things that are high in calories. You have to be aware of your hunger and your satiety cues. If you know that you're a person whose satiety level, it doesn't happen unless you eat a ton of food or you're never fully satiated and you're always hungry, keep that in mind. Maybe you should sit back and go, hey, I know I'm still a little bit hungry, but I've eaten enough. I mean, right? Like, it's hard. It's harder for these people who have, trouble feeling satiated with, eating and you're always hungry. It's hard, and it's going to take a little bit of extra effort from these people. But if you just overall reduce your caloric intake, you will see weight loss. Here's some practical tips. Make small and comfortable changes in your diet slowly over time, and increase your physical activity slowly over time. Now, if you're not used to working out, don't jump in gung-ho and do a 3-hour workout because you're going to feel like crap the next day. And if you feel like crap, you're not going to want to go back to the gym. You're not going to go exercise anymore because you're going to hate it. It's terrible. Start slow. Start where you're at. Everybody has their own starting point. Don't overdo it. Eat regular meals, including breakfast, so spread your meals out evenly throughout the day in order to regulate your hunger levels. If you're eating one big meal in the morning, by noon, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you're going to be hungry again, and you've already eaten all your calories for the day. I would recommend consuming, if you're trying to lose weight, consuming between 1,200 and 1,600 calories per day. Specific foods and cues that you can look for on product labeling would be lower in fat, less processed, low in sugar, or just simply foods with small portions. Now, if you can make these small lifestyle changes over time, that's not going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. It's probably going to be about 6-7 months before you really fully start to come close to hitting whatever goals you're setting. But as long as you are consistent with it, and that's the thing, consistency. Consistency is key, especially with weight loss. If you're going to make a lifestyle change, you have to be consistent with it. If you're trying to lose weight, you can't lose all the weight in 2 days and then expect to maintain that. Your body is not going to handle that very well. You're going to feel like crap, and you're going to end up giving into your cravings, your hunger. You're going to end up giving in, so you're going to go right back up to your weight. Do it sustainably through small lifestyle changes that are manageable through time. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes consistency. But with consistency, you will see results, and I guarantee you that. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Thank you for all the people who are following along. I am trying out this YouTube thing, doing what I can. If you like my content or you found any of this information helpful, please drop a subscription and comment. Ask me questions so I have more video ideas and information to put out for you guys. Just a disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I do not have any kind of medical qualifications or anything like that. I'm just a college student. Just a Division I athlete. I have maintained my body weight for years just because it's part of my sport as being a wrestler. And on top of that, I am in classes. So a lot of this information I'm pulling directly from classes and whatnot of what I've learned over the years, and, what I've learned from especially, my father and mother, because they were big in fitness, and so a lot of what I've learned as far as that goes has come directly from my father. Especially just because, he's kind of been in the industry for some years, and he kind of got me introduced to all of it. He's the reason I'm in my sport, so I can't thank him enough for that. Gotta love my dad. And my mom for supporting me. They're awesome. If you found any of this information helpful, drop me a subscription. I would love it. I'm getting ready to try to produce probably about a video a week here and there, and just tune in if you find any of this information helpful. It's very basic stuff, nothing too crazy, but it's useful information, so hopefully I can help somebody out there who's maybe just starting the gym, or maybe, like I said, somebody who's been in it for a while and needs a pointer in the right direction to give them a little bit of an extra boost. As always, stay hack strong, and I will see you guys in the next episode.